Book 2, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. So I wanted to update you guys on how my reading is going this month so far. Now. Currently. I just finished The Ballad of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings. This was such a fun, whimsical, magical read. I think it's great for this time of year. These kids are finding it's an alternate version of New Orleans called NOLA, where songs are being stolen, and this version of New Orleans might disappear, and a group of kids with these various gifts are going on a quest to find these songs and stop the person who is stealing them. So it explores Black culture. It is all about music and how music is alive, and also explores how sometimes adults don't know everything, and it's, as you get older you realize that. And it's magical, it's fun. I think it is perfect for this time of year to read this. There's zombies, there's haints, there's creatures, there's animals that that are walking and talking, and it's Mardi Gras, and it's so much fun. So I definitely would recommend this, especially because I haven't heard this. Is my first time. When I bought it was the first time I'd ever heard about it, which I got it at a thrift store, and it's like I want more people to check this one out because I think it's really fun. So I also decided to DNF For the Love of Stones by Tobias Hill. I think the idea is kind of interesting. The idea of this woman being obsessed with these stones from the medieval era and trying to find them. Like, I love, it very much reminds me of Dan Brown, his stories, and his Robert Langdon series, basically, where he's trying to find these, he's always there's always a history conspiracy, and he's always trying to hunt down this person who's using a legend or to do some bad things. And which, by the way, I might check out Dan Brown's latest book, which the title escapes me, Something Secrets. I'm definitely thinking about checking that one out because I liked it. I know he has problems, and there are things, the way he writes women isn't great. And, he never told anyone, and he never intended, it's not like he said that his books were fact or anything. It's just fun history conspiracies. So it's not meant to be fact. So being like, oh, this is incorrect history. It's based on conspiracy theories. It's fun. It's an adventure. It's, but anyway, it's basically like that movie, Lost National Treasure. It's like that. And so I don't know if I'll buy it, but I do like the new covers. It's again one of those books where they're changing the covers again, but I actually kind of like the covers that they changed it to this time. They're kind of fun, and they fit what the stories are about. The aesthetic of the covers. And I don't know how to show a digitally put the picture on the screen, but look up the new covers for the Dan Brown books. But anyway, so I don't know when I'll get to it, but I'm definitely interested in it. I've not read all of his books. Like, I haven't read Digital Fortress, which I don't think that's a Robert Langdon book, so I might have read all the books in this series, because I did listen to Origin on audiobook a couple years ago. And of course, the first two Dan Brown books, Angels and Demons, and Da Vinci Code, I read both of those and saw the adaptations. And I read many years ago, before we even moved to where we are now, I had read. I had a hardback copy of The Lost Symbol. So before it came out on paperback, so I had read that one as well. And so I think I've read all of them, at least as far as the Robert Langdon series goes. I think. So I don't know if I might. I mean, I'm still excited. I don't know if I'm gonna get it from the library. Let's see if I can find an audiobook at some point. So I might not get to it as soon as it comes out. I don't. It might already be out. I'm not sure. I would have to double check on that when it's released. But yeah, the Love of Stones kind of reminded me of that. But it was a little too much of explaining. Like I like exposition scenes on screen. I like those moments where things are revealed. But it was like too much history, and it's very confusing, and it was just almost a little too much. Like having a whole section. And I know the author is a poet, which I'm surprised he wasn't a historian because he knows a lot, but he probably looked it up, of course, for his book. But he's a poet. And the idea was interesting. It was just the execution. It was kind of slow. And maybe if I kept going, but I just was more interested in other books, like, and not as much interested in that. So I DNF'd that one. And I'm hoping to read this one next. To finally get back to the Babel by Kwong. I am excited to read her new book, not a movie, it's not a movie, Cannabascus. I haven't got to yet. I like most cases with her books, I try to wait. I mean, with Yellowface, I listened to it on an audiobook, but I prefer it getting her books in paperback. And it's from the sound, it's pretty chunky. Although those special editions of Cannabas are really pretty. But it's a big book. It looks like pretty big, so I'm probably gonna wait. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll risk it and actually buy it in hardback. Maybe, but I probably won't buy it until it's not until October, which is in a few days. It's the 27th as I'm filming this. And so I might. I mean, like I said, my guidelines for my budget is, once it's a new month, I start at the beginning. But I have a rule for myself that if I go over my budget, which, then I have to lower it as a consequence to train myself to not go over my budget. But which is very hard. I'm bad at it. Even if I can't drive myself there. And I mean, but I have my budget I did lower it down to, but I don't think I have gone over my budget yet. So, when I get into the next month, I start back at the beginning. And I don't know, I might buy it out, like, I have to look and see how much exactly it would be in hardback. But there are but the bigger books, oftentimes I do prefer reading them in paperback. But I might be really tempted to buy it now and just get it on hardback. But this one is our main character, Robin Swift. He gets the opportunity to go to the special school in Oxford, which is all about translation, and he's really excited to go, but then things are going to get complicated because he doesn't realize the consequences of translation and what is lost, and it's not as pleasant as he thinks it is. And like, it really looks at what happens when books from other countries go to English-speaking countries, and how they. And I'm guessing it looks at what gets lost in translation, and explores colonization and the consequences and the horrors of colonization. And it's probably gonna be a very complicated read. But I like it when they do those kinds of stories in kind of a fantastical way, because it makes it a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying, oh, it shouldn't be hard, and oh, I don't want to deal with how hard it is, and I just want to ignore it, just sweep it under the rug. I am not saying that. I am saying that I like when they do it in a way that's a little less, telling you when in your face. Although, I think some people do say Art Kwon goes pretty hard. But for me, the fact that it is done in a fantastical way helps me feel like she's not going as hard about it. But at least for me, personally. Now, Yellowface was a little different because it was a contemporary story. But it was kind of done in a fun way. I mean, it does get repetitious, and I know that can be incredibly annoying, but being someone still on Goodreads, I commented on a thread talking about that, about reading, like someone was asking if people have read Yellowface and what are their thoughts. And someone did admit they felt like it was very repetitious. And my theory on that is that maybe Art Kwon was doing that to show how on Twitter or X, I still think that, I'm not even on Twitter, and I think that whole change to X is really stupid. It's like the company, this site was trying to be cool, so like, it's X, we're edgy. But anyway, I'm still gonna call it Twitter. Twitter and how it can, like, in social media in general, it can get repetitive because people are having the same conversations over and over again. Maybe you have different voices expressing certain opinions, but often it's a common opinion that a lot of people have. And whether it's, you think this way or this way, and they're trying to make a point. But I liked Yellowface. I thought it was a pretty good story. It got the point across, its messages across. It was kind of funny and interesting, like very challenging, at the same time, to be in the head of this white woman who takes credit for something, for a story that isn't hers, that is not necessarily hers to tell. And it's, in lying about, like, her identity to, so it doesn't look like she's trying to tell a story that isn't hers to tell, and justifying that. Like, Yellowface is such an interesting topic to, it would be a great book club book to discuss this heavy topic of who has the right to tell these stories, and how this woman had the audacity to lie and just to cover up the fact that she's white, so people won't get mad at her for telling the story that doesn't affect her. And it was just such a really intense, not the story for everybody, and kind of in your face type story, especially because it was, not hiding behind some magical element or some fantastical element. It's really just, it's a contemporary story. And also comments on, the publishing industry and social media, and it was doing a lot of stuff. But I personally liked it, and it did help that I was listening to an audiobook. I think that's why the repetitious nature of the story didn't bother me as much, because I was listening to an audiobook. But that's just me. But yeah, so I'm ready to read her other book. I did start it, but now I might start from the beginning because I didn't get very far. I do have it on Goodreads where I left off, so I might just get back to it where I left off, but I do want to, start it and might, and read it for October. Like I said, I'm caught between trying to decide between Victorian or spooky. And, because it is Victober, but it's also spooky season. And that happens every year. So I was all set at the beginning of September when I saw Katie from Books and Things and the other host, Kate Howe, and Scally Dangling along the books. Scally Dangling, forgive me, I cannot say the name of her channel. Roz from Scally Dangling around the books. Claudia from, I can't think of her channel name. But when they were doing their announcement videos for Victober, I got excited and I was ready to get back into Victober. I loved doing Victober the first couple of years when we moved here, and I started my channel, It's always so much fun to me and it was a way to motivate me to get into Victorian literature and read more classics. But then at some point I was reminded I wanted to get back into reading spooky stuff around this time of year. So last year I focused on the more spooky stuff, and now I'm like, this year is a similar thing where I was all excited, but then as it gets closer to October, I'm like, well, maybe I want to do spooky. And yes, I could potentially do both, read one book from each category, but now I'm very conflicted. I don't know which one I want to do. And then I meant to refresh my memory on this person's channel name. If I can find it, I might post a link to her channel. But I recently watched a channel I recently started getting into where she's one of those people who does a TBR game. And her game is like I think she alphabetizes her books via title. And so because of this game where she will pick a letter from the alphabet, the title of the book has to start with that letter, but not just that. She also has a prompt she has to do. Like, she does kind of like a random number generator, but it's instead of numbers or colors, it's a prompt. Like, read a fantasy book, or read a book with, a romance trope, or read a book that's a female main character, or a book about friendship or something, or a book with a dragon. And so she has to get, not only does the book have to apply to one of those prompts, but it also has to start with the letter that she picked. And this triggered something that I keep thinking about doing it, but I never do it, is reading my books. Like, okay, first, I organize my books, not when I have them on my shelf, but when I have them, I have my Word document that lists all the books in my library, my personal library, and I have them organized in alphabetical order via title, like what she does with her shelves. And what I would like to do, what I keep talking about doing, but I have not done it, is I count the number of books for each letter in the alphabet that start with that letter via the title. Their title starts with that letter, and then whichever letters have the most books with the title that starts with that letter, I will prioritize those. Like, so far it looks like titles that start with the letter B, I have 18 books. So I'm thinking, let me knock out a couple books that start with the letter B. Or like another letter, then I have a lot of books that start with this letter R. S titles. L is another one. And I wrote it all down so that I remember it. And, maybe for some people that might be a little too nitpicky, a little too organized, and I've always loved the idea of TBR games, but I'm just not good at setting those up and organizing them, creating those and everything. And I'm also just lazy. I'm not a crafty person, and going through all the not that you have to be crafty to come up with these games necessarily, but getting together the tools to play to come up. Not that I have to do that, but I love the idea of it, and I would like to, ideally, but then it's just a lot of trouble to do it. So this is kind of the closest I get to that, and it's also a way to kind of organize my TBR a little bit better. Instead of just going random, just going by letters, the titles and the letters of the alphabet. It's a way to organize. I mean, I already organize my books in a Word document, not as far as my shelves, because I want to keep certain books together, book genres and book categories, and if it's an authors and all that. But how I have them documented in my in a file on my computer is alphabetically. So for me, it is fun. It is fun as a fun way to check things off. As I always say, I don't ever want to think I'm just checking off like a conveyor belt or anything. I'm not trying to be that person. But it is a very, like I said, it's a organized fashion on my reading. And I'm not saying I have to like read them in a certain order, just going and picking a letter. You know, like I'm not even doing them, I mean, A books and then B books and then C books. I'm just the ones that have the most titles that start with that letter. That's how I'm reading those. So the first one, so B, Babel. I'm going to read this one next. And let me get my water bottle out of the way. And actually, I'm probably not going to, and actually, The Ballad of Perilous Graves, another B title. So I have one B, and then read another B. And then, like I said, S is another one where I have a lot of books that start with the letter S. So I just grabbed this one, and it works for Victober, because I think the Brontes are Victorian literature. So this works for this one. And I think it does apply to some of the other prompts, because the Victober they have 10 prompts, because it's actually the 10th anniversary since they started Victober. So they came up with 10 prompts and they have 10 hosts this year. So this might fit one. I think this fits some of the other prompts, because I remember one of them talking about this book and recommending this book for for some of the prompts, I think. And then another S book is, when I set this all up, I was only counting my list of standalones, because I do have standalones separated from series. And especially because sometimes series, they have titles that are all different. So it would kind of, and I want to keep series together, so I have series as a separate list. And I didn't technically count those when I was counting how many books I have with those titles, because it's a lot, and because they're separate. So I mean, if I printed them out, then maybe I could mark it on a piece of paper. But so technically this counts for S as well, which is Scarlet by Stephen R. Lawhead. This is the second book in the Raven King trilogy, which is a Robin Hood retelling. And to me, I'm guessing going by the name of that this is about Will Scarlet. So these are my S titles. This is my B title, and then I really have only one L title. I mean, I could maybe potentially find another one that starts with L, but this would technically also count as a book for Victorian, I think, because Anthony Trollope would be considered a Victorian author. This is one of his standalones, Lady Anna. And I've been trying to read some of his other books. I don't know if I'm going to continue with Trollope or not. I mean, I do have the first book in the Palliser series, and I like him, but I can't really pinpoint it. But I kind of like Dickens more. I like his characters, his whimsy. It's so much fun, and I know some people like Trollope is a little more realism, and Dickens is more exaggerated. I think that's the big difference. But I personally like Dickens' characters more, and his stories a little bit more than Trollope's. But I do like Trollope. And I don't really. Oh, and this was he wrote this between the use of diamonds and the way we live now. So it looks at marriage, in the world of radical politics, social inequality. Oh, and it's looking at someone's legitimacy. So Lady Anna is looking at her legitimacy, and this is a weird cover. I mean, you could say this is Lady Anna, but I don't even know what she's doing. Is she just like daydream? I guess she's daydreaming. I guess that's what this is supposed to be. I don't know if this fits her character or personality, but I could throw in another L book. We will, we'll see. This is about 513 pages. So, I don't know, we will see. Like I said, I do want to, that's why I want to start Babel today. Because these still are a lot of chunky books. I mean, at least one of them, Scarlet, I could get by really fast. Because of its, the nature of its plot. Its plotting feels very, like, I was able to get through Hood, the first book, very quickly. I mean, it still took me some time, and I did start it and then put it down, and then came back to it. But once I came back to it, I got through a little bit quicker than. That's how it is with fantasy. But this one could still be slow, because even though it's a fantasy story, I think it could still be a potentially slow story. But anyway, so that's my reading so far this year. I just filmed It's Finally Fall book tag and my review of The Ballad of Perilous Grays by Alex Jennings. Please check those videos out. I would really appreciate it. As always, I would love to know what you are currently reading right now, and I hope you are doing well. And I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.